Hi, all. I'm back. I was here a few minutes ago and this thing broke. I don't know what in the name of the world happened. So I lost Food Forest Permaculture and How to Grow, which is Howie and Glenn. And I hope you come back, guys. It was so happy until it was so sad. It broke apart. And like I say, I don't know why. I'm not Mr. Techie. I'm just trying to utilize this stuff to increase some exposure to permaculture and food forests and all this kind of good stuff. And yada, 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 so it took a few minutes to close the thing down and get it back up. I don't know what happened. I have Ethernet cable because I thought it was the Wi-Fi breaking. And I don't know what. Gee, it's frustrating. I actually got 2 people to show up and now, poof, it's done. But, and I was early for the stream, so now I'm late. Yeah. So, continuing on with the theme from last week, I read a little bit out of, in case the first one doesn't upload later, Permaculture Design Manual, Chapter 1. I had a little insight. So today I'm going to say something about Chapter 2. Okay, so in Chapter 2, what we have here is concepts and themes in design. So, intros 2.1 is, let me go ahead of intro on Chapter 2. It's kind of weird they designed this book. Most thermodynamic problems concern closed systems where the reactions take place in confinement and can be reversed. An example is the expansion and compression of gas in a cylinder. But in an open system, energy is gained or lost irreversibly in the system, its environment, or both, or changed by the interaction. The second law of thermodynamics states that energy tends to dissipate in organized systems, drift inevitably towards entropy or chaos. In seeming violation of that law, biological systems tend to become increasingly complex and efficient. So anyway, that's a part of that. So intro. It is alarming that in a Western society, no popular body of directives has arisen to replace injunctions of tribal taboo and myth. When we left tribal life, we left with it all guides to sensible behavior in the natural world of which we're a part and in which we live and die. More to the point, by never having the time or common sense to evolve newer current guiding directives, we have forgotten how to evolve self-regulating systems. As I drop the mouse on the floor. It's a problem with not having a real desk. I don't have a real place to put anything. So we've forgotten when we left our tribes and whatnot, little compartments of society that had to deal with nature, basically, because we got too far away from it, how to deal with it. Hence the call for a society in which we are all designers based on an ethical and applied education with a clear concept of life ethics. The Gaia hypothesis, as formulated by James Lovelock, is that the Earth less and less appears to behave like a material assembly and more appears to act as a thought process. Even in the inanimate world, we're dealing with a life force, and our acts are of great effect. The reaction of the Earth is to restore equilibrium and balance. So, skipping ahead, it says, don't do anything unless you've thought out all its consequences and advantages. Aboriginal cultures used myth the term myth to show how unnecessary acts and unthinking destruction of elements brings about catastrophe and suffering. The usual structure of myth has these sequences. 1, a willful act of an individual or group. 2, a transmutation. Which it talks about Lot in the Bible, and the guy turned it into salt. And I never got that whole thing. So anyway, we'll move on to 3. Invocation of an internal elemental force, firestorm, earthquake, flood, etc., as a result of any set of willful acts. 4, necessary atonement by suffering, isolation, migration, or death. Yikes. This is really a biblical type of thing. So the act of a child or individual is given a meaning which relates to the whole of nature and rebounds on the society. Welcome back, Glenn. We have here Glenn from How to Garden. If you're watching this, check out How to Garden. This is a shout out live stream Sunday. So check him out. He's in Florida, and I'm sure he has some good things to show and say. And thanks for coming by, Glenn. Thanks for coming back. I don't know if the first one will be able to upload or what, because I had to end that to start again. And I'm not sure with all this techie stuff, how it's going to work. So it's going to work right or not. So anyway, so getting back to this, because we have replaced nature-based myth with a set of fixed prohibitions relating only to other people and unrelated to nature, we have developed destructive and people-centered civilizations and religions. In life and design, we must accept that immutable rules will not apply. Instead, be prepared to be guided by our continuing exploration by flexible principles and directives. So that's kind of what they're talking about here, is that permaculture, you can have some design principles, but I can't tell you how to do something exactly on your piece of land. You have to adapt the principles and the elements of how to do things to your piece of land. I'm not in a tropical place. How to garden may be in a tropical climate. I may know some things that can help, but I'm not going to exactly be able to go there and say, oh, if you do this, this is exactly what's going to happen. A lot of this is trial and error. So we have to localize these permaculture ideas into our own region and our own yards and communities and start realizing how things work where we're at. Okay, so that's the thing. And anyway, that's in chapter 2 of the aforementioned, if my other stream part comes up, Permaculture Designer's Manual by Bill Mollison. So I believe Glenn was saying how he was dealing with permaculture for the last 20 years. Let's see, I started around 2002, pretty close for me too, 18 years. But I have not been a landowner, so there's been challenges with that. And landlords don't want you to do certain things, and a lot of the growing I haven't been able to do. And I got involved in one community garden that, the people that showed up, a lot of them wanted a community garden. But many of those just wanted to come and harvest things. You have to be willing to shovel some wood chips and get the thing growing, not just show up and take advantage of the harvest. And you know what I've been finding out with, I was reading the Permaculture, is it Permaculture Design magazine? It used to be called the Permaculture Activist, and they're talking about the Amazon and the tropical soils are not that good. And now there's a revised idea that if you grow the black earth, the terra preta, through the use of charcoal, biochar they call now, you can increase the capacity of the tropical soils, apparently. So that's interesting. So if and when I ever get a place in Florida or Hawaii would be my ideal, because it's in the Pacific region too. And I don't know, I grew up in the West Coast, so I like this area, and I want to go, if I want to go somewhere, I hope it's going to be more west. So anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to, that's why I keep reading and learning. Welcome back, Howie. Thanks for coming back. Like I was telling Glenn here, I don't know what happened. I had it on Ethernet cable. And anyway, we got it back. I don't know if I'll be able to upload the other part or if it's lost to cyberspace. The cyber gods have it right now. So, but yeah, I've been reading the Permaculture Design magazine. That's the one from in the U.S. It used to be called the Permaculture Activist, Howie, and they're talking about the tropical soils of the Amazon and how they used to believe that you couldn't do anything to build up the soils, so you couldn't have a large population there. But now they realize that with the so-called Black Earth, Terra Preta, that the Amazon peoples way back when were able to use char and build up their soils. So I think that's the key to all these. And if and when I go back to Hawaii to live, then I can bring that thought with me and try to build up the soils nicely. I just like when you throw something on the ground, it's like Jack on the Beanstalk. I think, you throw in a piece of bamboo, maybe next year you can build a house. You got so much. It's so rainy and just warm, and I don't like cold anyway. Cold to me means your chance of you getting sick. So that's the thing. And I kind of went through chapter 2 a little bit. Each week I should go. Maybe I'll go a little bit more in depth next week on the chapter 2. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll go over to Saturdays because it seems like maybe sometimes people don't like Sundays. And cob house, yeah. I don't know if you could build cob in the tropics, though, can you? Because it might kind of melt with all the rain. But I would say other than that, yeah, it would be nice to build cob house. All I need is a shelter and make it where I have a lot less things to do. For example, I know a guy that went to Hawaii to live, and he had one of these work trade scenarios. And he spent a lot of time fighting the snails because the snails bring they spread rat lungworm disease. So one of your tasks is to control the snails all the time. So what I'm roundabout saying is to get everything working advantageously and not have to spend every minute trying to subside and get by is the idea. So, if I can go to Hawaii and grow things and find a way to keep the snail and slugs back where I'm not possessed by every minute worrying about rat lungworm disease, nice. Okay, that makes sense. A large overhang. I would think in Hawaii you'd need like a 5 foot because, man, I don't know if you've been there, Howie, but when it rains sometimes, like in the Hilo region, wow, it can seriously rain. At my PDC I went to in year 2002, I mean, every day it poured, and this was in August. Okay, so giant drops. I mean, they're this big, just dumping down, pouring down. And I'm going to close this blinds because it's too much. There's interference of light and sound a little bit, so I want to dampen down on that. That's why I close that. Maybe I'll open this overhead light. So now you can really see my resource pile in the background. Some people, non-permaculturists would call that a junk pile, but we're permaculturists, so everything gets renamed with a better name, resource pile. So, really, I'd like to build some kind of permaculture center someday in Hawaii, but it's delicate because there's population there that existed before and still, and I have to respect that and work with the native populations. They had more or less a sustainable system way back when, and they called it the Ahupua'a, if I'm saying that right. It went from mountain to sea, and they'd have segments going down the mountain. Say they have one up here, and the people are mainly forest peoples, and all the way down, each part of society did something different. So the people down at the bottom at the sea raised the fish, and they traded with whatever from up on top of the mountain. And so much percentage went to the chiefs. So it was kind of like our society now, you know, a little bit goes up to the top, like a franchise in a sense. So anyway, they had it kind of going on. So I wouldn't want to go there and offend people, but I would want to, if possible, build up a place and make it where the native cultural things can come in, and build up a nice scene to where people can eat better and all this permaculture style. And that at some point, when I kick the bucket, goes back to some kind of group owned by Native Hawaiians, maybe in Hawaii. That would be my ideal. I mean, it will take a lot of work and a lot of money input, but that's one of the things I want to do. But for the shorter term, the only couple hundred years term, I want to start building up this Pacific Permaculture Institute from my house here in California. And this is my zone that I'm just habitating right now. This isn't the house I have. So anyway, it's going to be a challenge. I'm going to have to start propagating things and try to build it up quicker that way. Thanks for coming by, Howie. See you next time. I hope to catch you live next time, too. You got a great Pathway soil bank right there. It inspires me a lot. I always said that turning compost was a waste of time and it hurts your back. So when I came across your Pathway soil bank, I was like, right on. This guy has the idea. Turning compost is for an 18-year-old that has nothing better to do, okay? So I always felt that way when I came across it when I was about 30. Like, what? Not permaculture. Horticulture instructor was saying about turning compost. I'm thinking, this guy is crazy. And I read a book called Let It Rot that says no matter what you do, compost happens. So that's kind of my philosophy on compost. So I like that Pathway soil bank, and I will push that ahead whichever way I can in my life to build up the soil. And, the guy wanted to double dig this whole big garden place too, because he had read the John Jevons thing. And hey, I helped him with one small bed and that was it. It was like, no. And nothing's going to grow if it requires that I have to double dig everything by hand. I'll just buy the crap at the store if it comes down to that. There's a limit to how much effort I'm putting in. So anyway, and the other thing, all our permaculture systems, you always get these young kids that are 18, 19, and so enthusiastic. Oh, we could just chop this stuff way over here and drag it clear over here. No, we have to start designing things for people 50 and up. Okay, they may have a little crick in their back and may have a little problem with their leg or their ankle or whatever. We don't want to make it a huge effort all the time, because later people will just abandon the whole thing, and then we go back to what? Conventional agriculture is practiced nowadays by the big giant so-called farmers, and then it's done. So we have to adapt these things to the population we have and who we will be. Okay, I'm in my 50s now. All this time I didn't have access to land. Now that I do, I'm not going to design the system the same way as I would have when I was 18 or 19 or whatever. There's a limit to how much dragging around of materials I'm going to do and turning compost piles. No, there's just a limit to this stuff. I intend to use mechanical advantage wherever I can to decrease my efforts out of my back, because there's just so much we can do. But that being said, I want to start propagating a lot of things, because that also comes down to money, and that can help spread forth this food forest idea if I propagate plants, even if I give them away, I can just keep spreading this idea forth that way easier than trying to say, okay, we're gonna overplant this area, but we have to buy everything. It's going to be terribly expensive. Oh, okay. Now I will say that over time, you get that back in resource, but the thing is, we all live here today, and today it's still a budgetary strain. If I go, I want to build a little grove of trees, for example. Let's say I want to build a grove of conifers, which that's a true thing. That's why I'm using that as an example. Okay, so I want, I don't know, eight adult trees in the next 50 years. So right now I'm going to plant 100. Well, guess what? That's going to be like maybe $10 a tree. That's $1,000. Say, $1,000 to get 8 trees 50 years from now is a little bit of money. So we have to cultivate ways of propagation, help each other propagate, local propagation places, all this, and move forward with all this. And in the meantime, where we can, grow food, share food. Part of what I'm doing, okay, I'm growing in half barrels because the ground is not trustable right now. But it will be at some point. But for now, all I could do is grow food in half barrels and move forward. Later, I'll do a little bit better job. I intend to do some hugelkultur, and I'm going to put a lot of wood chips and let the herbicides kind of cook out for a couple of years. I'm going to put some sunflowers and things like that that are heavy feeders to suck up all the junk possible, and maybe some mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, to metabolize a lot of things. And then after a couple of years, I'm just going to go for it and grow whatever I can. So anyway, thanks to everybody for coming by. It is about 10:30, and I'm trying to limit the time on these streams so actually people will come by and watch, not just keep it where it's so long nobody ever wants to come and watch on the replay. So anyway, thanks to everybody for coming by. Keep your eyes open for my giveaway. I'm going to have a 4-year giveaway, YouTube giveaway, for my 4-year anniversary of being on YouTube. So that's in August. And my intention at this point is to give away some of these. Permaculture Designer's Manual book by Bill Mollison. It's a foundation book for permaculturists, and I want to help inspire more. And if you already have the book and you receive it, just give it to somebody, share the knowledge. And anyway, with that, I'm going to have to let everybody go. Time for me to actually get active today. Thanks for coming by, Glenn and Howie. Those channels are Food Forest Permaculture and How to Garden. Thanks to everybody else who's going to watch this on the replay. Peace and permaculture.